Let's grab the book. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for coming to Bhagavatam class today via Zoom. Nice boxes. Today we are reading from the 5th canto, chapter 26, chapter entitled Knowledge Words. Today's text is 27. Okay, sure. Yep. Prose verse. Ye tvam iha vaidasya grinhadi grabharta startam va vilumpanti raja no rajapata vatangsa chapi hi par etya yamaduta vrajatangstraha shvana sapta shatani vingshatishcha sarabashanang kandanti. Word for word. Yea, persons who do but iha in this life, vai indeed, dasyavaha, thieves and plunderers, agnida, who set fire, gardaha, who administer poison, graman, villages, sartan, the merchant, va, or vilumpanti, plundering, rajanaha, kings, rajapataha, government officials, va, or tan, them, cha, also, api, indeed, he, certainly, paretya, having died, yamaduta, the Maharaj, vrajadangshtra, having mighty teeth, svanaha, dogs, saptashtani, 700, vingshanti, 20, and sarabasana, voraciously, kandanti, devour. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Gita. Translation. In this world, some persons are professional plunderers who set fire to the house or administer poison to them. Also, members of the royalty or government officials sometimes plunder mercantile men by forcing them to pay tax and by income tax and by other methods. After death, such demons are put into the hell known as Saramedhyadhana. On that planet, there are 720 dogs with teeth as strong as thunder. Under the order of the agents of Yamaraj, these dogs voraciously devour such sinful people. Purport. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that in this age of Kali, everyone will be extremely disturbed by 3 kinds of tribulations: scarcity of rain, famine, and heavy taxation by the government. Because human beings are becoming more and more sinful, there will be a scarcity of rain, and naturally no food grains will be produced. On the plea of relieving the suffering caused by the ensuing famine, the government will impose heavy taxes, especially on the wealthy mercantile community. In this verse, the members of such government are described as dasyu, thieves. Their main activity will be to plunder the wealth of people. Whether a high robber or a government thief, such a man will be punished by being thrown into the hell known as Sara Medhyadana. where he will suffer greatly from the bites of the ferocious dogs. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunimitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna, everybody. So this is this whole chapter I find very fascinating. I think I mentioned that last time I gave class. But it's very interesting how in all of Prabhupada's books he's very specific about details. And I thought this purport was very interesting because he's describing exactly what will happen, that human beings, they in this Kali, sorry, I'll just read it from Purport. In this, it is said that in this age of Kali, everyone will be extremely disturbed by three kinds of tribulations: scarcity of rain, famine, and heavy taxation by the government. And then he very nicely explains how just one after another this will happen. So first there's scarcity of rain. So when there's no rain, how do you grow crops? So when there's no crops, fall in the economy because people will trade this sort of stuff. So there's um, no, yeah, there's no crops, there's no economy, and then naturally there's starvation. People can't eat anything, even in this very degraded age of Kali, where we are growing other living entities just so that we can consume them for the pleasure of the tongue. Similarly, this will also stop working because these animals will need to eat something. Uh, and there's nothing to feed them, then naturally the economy will crash. And even human beings alone, those of us who eat a civilized diet of grains, fruits, and vegetables, which is actual food stuff, as Prabhupada said in Bhagavad Gita, um, food and mode of goodness, then we'll also suffer because there won't be any grain, any vegetables. So then there comes famine and starvation. Everyone's suffering so much due to hunger that the government will try and help, and their helping comes in the form of taxation. So they'll start taxing everything. Anything you buy will be taxed heavily to try and make money in the economy, um, so that that the economy can thrive. But just cause, yeah, it'll just be stripping even more from the internal economy system. And then they'll target the people who have the most money naturally, and those will be the mercantile communities, the ones who are doing the trade work, because the trade workers, the farmers, the people who are trading their goods, they'll naturally be thriving because they're the only ones who have anything to trade. So Prabhupada's saying here, these people who are called thieves, they're stealing from the people just so they can make their own money. These are thieves. And that's just very interesting. I don't know very much about how the economy system works and functions, but I can definitely see from my very small perspective and my very limited knowledge of this whole, basically like an ecosystem of money, um, that is actually just, there's a lot of it that's It's like a cycle, being scammed or cheating each other, cheating. I can at least say I don't know much about the US one, but in New Zealand, they have the economy system in such a way that it's almost like a circle. And watching it from an outside perspective, not having very much knowledge on how it works, you can see how it's, um, yeah, how it's just kind of, how to describe it? It doesn't make sense to a person who has any sort of intelligence. The government taxes the citizens very uh, takes a lot takes a lot of tax. His Holiness Everyman Swami describes that if the average American were to look at New Zealand and see how they're being taxed, they would just start shaking in their boots because it's so much. But at the same time, New Zealand has universal health care, so you break your arm, you can go to the doctor and get free treatment. So in this way, they look like they're protecting their citizens by providing healthcare that's free, but they're also taxing them, taking half their income away. Um, so yeah, it's just a cycle. We'll tax you, but give you something back, and then we'll tax you again, but we'll give something back. So in this way, the government can cheat us in this way. So they look like they're taking care, but actually they're also taking. And then living entities are also cheating the government. Okay, you're providing this facility, I will take advantage of it. So this verse, we're hearing about these thieves, and I want to talk a little bit about thieves and suffering. So yeah, we also hear that in this age of Kali, everyone will be extremely just by different aspects of life. So here, Srila Prabhupada is just giving three examples: lack of rain, taxation by the government, and what's the other one? Famine. These are just three examples, but actually, we suffer in a lot of other ways as well. In the age of Kali, just in general, in this human form of body, we experience lots of suffering. Actually, every form of life experiences suffering. Um, as we miseries that we suffer from, there's the idipodicum, and iditayakam. So we have the sufferings that are ensued by people around us, by the living entities. So these can be from uh, your friends, your family, from the demigods, the higher living entities in the world, from people around us. We can experience this suffering. Someone might be mean to us, or yeah, you're driving down the motorway and someone hits your car, causes you so much suffering. Uh, so many different ways. Someone shoots you, or whatever. Lots of different ways where we can be um, we can be afflicted with misery due to someone else's doing. Then there's miseries caused by nature. So these can be uh, forest fires, unlimited options, tsunamis, flash floods, struck by lightning. So many options for us to experience distress due to nature's cause. And then there's also distresses that we experience from our own body and mind. And some may say that these are actually the most extreme, as mental health slowly progresses and chews away at the minds of so many young people. Actually, the suicide rate increases in New Zealand, in Wellington. It was one of the highest, I think it was in yearly 2021, 2022. It had one of the highest rates of like teen suicide in the world, which is quite amazing in a very gruesome sense that that would happen. So yeah, these people are disturbed nowadays that I've heard from His Holiness Dervish Swami that if someone comes to bhakti, like a young person comes to bhakti, on hand you have to have a doctor and a psychologist just to take care of them because they're going to be so disturbed from their activities. So yeah, this is true. You can see this today. You can see this. I can see this even in my own life. I get so much misery caught in my body and my mind. Um, that even if it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day outside, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go outside. I want to stay inside. It's too hot. Whatever. The mind can cause so much distress. So, what is the point of all of this life we're living then, if there's actually so much distress that's involved, so much suffering? The average uh, person actually is experiencing so much suffering in their day that in order to mitigate, they have to take so much intoxication just to, uh, yeah, get to a point when they can feel okay. Like Sheish Prabhu also says, to get to a place where you can feel okay, like actually okay, is actually quite a high standard of happiness in today's day and age. Because uh, the living entities, I've heard him say in a class that they're walking as though they're walking to an execution line. And if you try and say, hey, excuse me, like, can I just for a second show you something? They'll say, no, no, I'm fine, it's okay. Or in New Zealand, they say, she'll be all right. It's fine, I don't need anything. I'm okay. But actually, this platform okay is a very high standard of happiness nowadays. Um, so yeah, there's so much suffering actually, and we are looking desperately for a taste for something that's going to satisfy us, that's going to make us feel like, oh yeah, I feel okay just now. For this moment, I feel like I'm doing okay. But this satisfaction we look for in the material world is compared to a drop of water in the desert. It doesn't give any satisfaction to the soul. It just momentarily quenches the tongue before we again look for more. So it's a futile attempt, actually. And yeah, we hear about in Bhagavad Gita, in the first, second chapter, Kuntaya, that we're experiencing happiness and distress is like, it's like the summer and the winter. It's always changing. So sometimes you're happy for a little bit and then distress comes again. And you're distressed for some time and the happiness comes. So it's constantly fluctuating, these feelings. And yeah, just like we're saying, the pleasure we get is it's the same pleasure. I remember someone that told me really stressed at this point. He said that he read it in Teachings of Lord, sorry, Teachings of Raj, one of the first books he read, and he always repeats this point that in the one of the first lines in this book is that living entities, the happiness that we're experiencing, is actually the same experience that we're getting. It's the same experience that like the dogs and the hogs are getting. That's the same level. Um, so the happiness we can experience on the material platform, whatever we're experiencing, that pleasure that we're getting, that sense of okayness or that sense of happiness, the dogs and the other animals are also experiencing the same pleasure. I remember a funny example. Um, in the city I was living in, we have this, it's like a dump. It's called the tip. And it's, you drive like 5, 10 minutes out of the city, you kind of get to this green area. And the closer you get, you have to roll your windows up because the smell is just so intense. It's basically like a dump. You go there, you throw away. There's just trash everywhere. It's like pretty mode of ignorance place to be. So I would go there a lot, not for fun, but because I was part of my service. When I was managing the ashram, I'd always take things there and dispose of things. Um, and I remember one time I was driving there, I was driving through these little windy roads, and there was a family of like warthogs, like pigs, wild horse, and they were just crossing. And I was looking at them and I was thinking, man, they just look so happy. Like they were just like wagging their little tails and they were like almost like skipping across the road. And it's just a little family of them. And they just like, went off into the bushes and they were just like they looked so happy. And I was like, wow, look at these animals, you know? This place is not nice. It's actually a very gross place. There's like rubbish everywhere. There's this like stench. There's birds, like seagulls are everywhere. Um, there's like rubbish in the trees. It's like a very not a place you'd want to hang out. And these pigs, they were just like loving it. They were in total bliss. It was very interesting to see because I was thinking, oh wow, they're experiencing so much happiness. Like this is the happiness for a pig. This is exactly what a pig wants. It wants to be in a place where there's like rubbish and there's trash everywhere. Like this is nectar for these pigs. And anyways, it's just very interesting realization. Just think like, wow, this is like their state in this place. And then just to see like relating it to like I was like, oh, like this is their happiness. And then, you know, the living entities, um, they go to the pubs to go drinking or they go yeah, out partying and that's their happiness. But actually they're just experiencing the same flavor. This is very interesting. Point to think about. Now we're hearing in this verse how mm, suffering thief, those who are thieves, they steal the material pleasures. It's actually a very low, uh, you have to be quite, um, just suffering quite a lot to be a thief that steals for material purposes. I'm talking about not related to Krishna consciousness. For your own material pleasures, to steal from someone else, you have to be suffering quite a lot. There's, I was reading about this yesterday. So this is from, yeah, the Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. In this way, their material attachment goes on increasing, and all of this requires money. The mystic will cheat anyone, kill anyone, beg, borrow, or steal anything to bring money. He knows that his buildings, his family, his wife, and his children cannot continue to exist perpetually. They are like bubbles in the ocean. They have come into existence, and after a little while they will be gone. But he is too much attached. He will suffer, he will sacrifice his spiritual advancement for the pursuit of money to maintain them. And then this is also from Bhagavatam, Canto 554, text number 4, chapter 5. Begging, borrowing, and stealing to live for sense gratification is condemned in this verse, because such consciousness leads one to a dark, hellish life. So I was just looking this up yesterday, and I just was thinking about this because, from personal experience, um, yeah, you have to be suffering in a very low state of suffering to be able to take from someone else and claim it as your own. Especially stealing for sense gratification. That's what we're hearing today. There's a hell planet dedicated for it. So this is interesting though, because who is Krishna? He is none other than a butter thief, right? Krishna is the supreme thief. And what is he stealing? With his transcendental flute vibrations, he is stealing the minds of the gopis and the hearts of all living entities. This is different. We have stealing for our own pleasure, for our own senses. And this is condemned. This is a most, yeah, not nice thing to do. Here and there, steal someone's maha. This is actually for spiritual advancement. So it's different. But stealing from someone else, taking them and claiming it as my own. This is not nice. But Krishna, he's the supreme personified Godhead. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sanchidanandana Nadiradi Govinda Sarkarkarnam. He is most beautiful and splendid and divine. And is described in Krishna book that when he plays his transcendental flute, that all the inhabitants of Vrindavan become motionless, become stunned. Peacocks in the trees become frozen as though they're still alive. River Yamuna stops its flowing and becomes still like water, still water. The calves, they're drinking the milk from their mother's udders, and they can't swallow the milk. It's almost as though their voice has become choked. And the milk just goes into the mouth and then runs down the cheeks. The mother cows are listening with such attention that their ears kind of fold back as though to suck up more nectar. So Krishna, he steals the hearts of everyone. And there's this very nice verse. I've read it in the Nectar of Devotion, but it's also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where one Gopi is telling her friends, my dear friend, if you are all attached to your material desires, do not go down to the bank of the Keshi Ghat. Well, you will see Govinda standing in his three form with his flute pressed to his lips, coming sidelong glances. So yeah, just actually by reading that Krishna has stolen our mind, our heart. And that so much so that even the things that we used to become attracted to have no interest to us anymore. We lose complete flavor in all of the things that used to become so attractive to us. Now they just become, even the sound of them sounds very unpleasant. I remember when I was in Wellington, we had at our center, the Bhakti Lounge, I was having dinner with these German girls. Me and my friend were sitting with them, and they were telling us about these clubs they have in Amsterdam, and they're yeah, you go there to party, and they were saying, yeah, we go there, you spend like 3 days there. These clubs are like 3 or 4 story houses, and each floor is like a different um, you know uh, setup. And you go to one, and then you go to the next, and you can go outside, and you go. And they were describing it, and I was looking at them, and I was like, wow. When before Krishna consciousness, that would have been like total bliss for someone in the mode of ignorance like myself. But now hearing about it, I was just like, man, that just sounds awful. Like, sounds so moochy. Like, you know, guaranteed there's probably no showers in this place. Everyone's just probably like covered in grime and all sorts of other unfortunate and gross substances. So it just actually sounds so unattractive. Like, um, yeah, such an unpleasant place to be. I just remember remarking, like, wow, the power of Srila Prabhupada's books and the mercy of the spiritual master and the devotees, that actually your mind could change. Things you used to find attractive no longer attract the mind. So Krishna is the supreme thief, and who are we? We are beggars. We are constantly begging for the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of the devotees, so that we are able to make some advancement into order to gain some taste for the mercy of the Lord. So Krishna, he steals everything from us, actually. And if we're able to let him actually steal, then this is very fortunate. We're very fortunate if Krishna steals our homes, our minds, our intelligence. As in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasachanam Hrisana Vishtam Tasmriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha Vedanta Sarvam Eva Vedya Vedanta Krit Veda Vedeva Cham. That Krishna, he gives us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So he's very kind like that. Sometimes he'll grant us the knowledge to remember things, and sometimes he'll take it away, take away our intelligence, and we're left like, oh, right, that verse, I can't remember this, I can't remember that. I can't remember where I left my house keys. Krishna, please help me. So Krishna is very tricky in that way. He can take away our intelligence, cover us over. He can give us intelligence. He can take away our memory. Yeah. So there's very many nice stories actually in Krishna book, pastimes of Krishna, where we can see how he takes away the intelligence of his devotees, or he steals their heart. And yeah, it's very nice to read these pastimes actually, because we can see here, I mean, we're reading the 26th chapter, the hellish planets. It's a very gruesome chapter, very confronting, where you can see actually all these sins that the places these people are going, the hellish lives they're going. And then we can read Krishna book or Nectar of Devotion, and we can see actually the supreme sweetness that is there in the spiritual world with Krishna. And it can, yeah, be very attractive to the mind, and also hopefully attract us so much that we become inspired to share this with others. Because there's so many people who have no idea about Krishna's beauty. And yeah, it's our responsibility to to share it with them in some way. I'm reaching to myself because I'm also trying to do that. There's this very nice initiative that I've been watching so far as a bystander called the Oh Bad program. It's called One Book a Day. One devotee, one bhakta from New Zealand, who's started this program, encouraging devotees to try and distribute one book a day. And I'm part of this group chat, and I'm seeing all these photos come through, all these pictures of met someone at a gas station, and he took this book, he took this book. So it's very inspiring to see actually how, yeah, people are trying to distribute Krishna in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books to all these people who will never get the opportunity to become free from these sufferings. So, just to wrap up on this subject, this verse we're reading about today is talking about the destination for people who are stealing and like borrow, steal for their own sense gratification, um, putting so many other people into such suffering conditions. And of course, we don't want to be like that. We want to be uh, begging, borrowing the mercy of Krishna, for Krishna brain. We want to get whatever we can get, as it's famously quoted. If you go to the marketplace and you see that they're selling Krishna prem, then buy as much as you can, buy in bulk. Steal it if you have to. Take whatever's there. Nityananda Prabhu is charging only for the faith. He's charging only your faith. So yeah, this is all I wanted to share on this. And then I was going to stop. Then I realized that I was seeing in one of Taraka Prabhu's comments that it's also the appearance day of Shikadadhar Pandit. So I thought I'd just read a little bit about him because uh, he's a very amazing devotee. So we hear every day, actually, we're saying Gadadhar Pandit's name when we say Jai Shri Vishnu Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So, yeah, he's one of the members of the Panchatattva. So he is one of the 5 Prabhus that we glorify every day. So we have him. He is Panchatattva. He is described as the effulgence of Srimati Radharani. Lord Chaitanya had so much affection for Gadadhar Pandit that he could not be without him for a moment. He appeared a year after Lord Chaitanya. In childhood, Gadadhar Pandit was going to this Gurukul, essentially, and it happened to be the same Gurukul that Lord Chaitanya was going to. So they became very close friends, and they were almost inseparable as childhood playmates. It says, pure, peacefully renounced, serious, self-composed, fond of solitude, Gadadhar proved quite a contrast to his friend Agora Roy, who was fickle, unsteady, and whimsical. So, in in their childhood school, said Lord Chaitanya repeatedly teased Gadadhar by challenging him with illogical questions. So you can only imagine they must have been such good friends that they were always challenging each other with shastric points. Shri Kalikaranapuna states that in Vrajlila, Gadadhar Pandit is the daughter of King of Vrishabhanu, Shrutimurti Radharani. Gadadhar Pandit served as Lord Chaitanya's chief assistant in his Navadvipa Leela. Shri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan appear as Gaura of Gadadhara to perform pastimes in Navadvipa in the forest of the groves besides the Ganges. Gadadhar Pandit, no one, quote, no one call described the characteristics and ecstatic love of Gadadhar Pandit. Therefore, another name for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gadadhar Parinatana, the life and soul of Gadadhar Pandit. Chaitanya Charitamrita. So yes, there's very many nice pastimes we can read about him today on his appearance day. We can pray to Gadadhar Pandit for the, we can actually beg to Gadadhar Pandit, please give us some mercy. And fix our attachment on Lord Chaitanya. We can read about his life in Charitamrita or Discount Desire Tree. It says here, Gadadhar Pandit also took their announced order of life and went into Jagannath Puri to be with Lord Chaitanya, accepting change or sannyasi. A renunciant who can never leave the Dham. He served the deity of Tanta Gopinath, full of love and devotion. Regularly, Sri Chaitanya came to relish Sri Gadadhar's Prasika, reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya concluded his manifest pastimes by entering the deity of Tanta Gopinath. The Gopinath deity, which was worshipped by Gadadhar Pandit. Yeah, I'm sure very many nectarian pastimes. We could go on forever talking about the glories of Lord Chaitanya's dearest associates. But I'll open up the board. If anyone has any questions, comments, or corrections, please, you're welcome to share. If no one has any comments or questions, I can share a story, but I'd like to hear if anyone has. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice class, and also glorification of Sri Gadadhar. I'll tell you a quick comment about Gadadhar Pandit. You mentioned we repeat his name daily, and there's a book about to be released in the U.S. It's already available in India and the UK. Written by Jayant Swami about Srila Prabhupada's kirtan standards. And I'm not sure whether the book makes mention of this fact, but with regards to those standards, Srila Prabhupada used to correct devotees when they would repeat the name Gadadhar in the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, sometimes for the sake of creating a melodious um, meter in singing the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, they will say Gadadhar, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar. And Srila Prabhupada would interrupt the kirtan and explain that it's not Gadadhar, it's Gadadhar. He would insist that we say Gadadhar. Um, anyway, just a small point that Srila Prabhupada evidently felt it was important enough to make mention of it more than once. And I wouldn't beat devotees over the head about it, but it's just something that Srila Prabhupada mentioned. Um, I don't think he would want to discourage anyone from their chanting in any case, however they may do it. But he did do that sometimes. Um, with regards to this text mention of heavy taxation, which is particularly discussed in the 12th canto. Srila Prabhupada, of course, makes mention of this many times in his lectures and purports. And um, one thing that is striking to me is that it's generally described as being a feature that will become increasingly prominent as Kali Yuga progresses, and we're in the very beginning of Kali Yuga. It's only just begun, but already this is um, this is a serious issue for people throughout the world, and certainly in the United States. Um, I'm acutely aware of it because my service mostly entails making Lakshmi to fund ISKCON projects, and sometimes I make a lot of money and I have to pay a lot of taxes, and it's ridiculous that the way the laws are written, it really punishes Vaishyas, the people who generate wealth are tormented. It's a terrible thing. There were years in my life, even in the course of just working an ordinary job, I fell into a tax bracket that resulted in having to pay um, taxes at a rate of 50%. Just the federal taxes alone, without the state taxes and other taxes. My federal taxes alone were 50%. So it means 6 months out of the year, I was just working for the government. With nothing to show for it. Um, Part of my service requires that I have to be aware of what's happening in the news, because the market is driven by news events to a large extent, and so I have to dive deeply into various things, especially aspects of the news that are uh, historically known to have some bearing on market conditions. And taxation, of course, is certainly one of those things, but and all kinds of government activity falls into that category. One thing that I am seeing very, very regularly, and um, which I'm sure people will gradually experience more and more, is that um, governments throughout the world have long been corrupt in all kinds of ways. I remember for many decades, India was regarded as having one of the most corrupt governments on earth, and I experienced that during the period of time when I was living in India. extraordinarily corrupt. Um, in India, bribery is standard operating procedure. It's expected by everyone. Um, you can't get anything done without paying a bribe. In the United States, bribery is against the law, but such things still go on. What I'm seeing now is that in the U.S., the government has become, I think, at this point, it is far more corrupt than India was at its worst. Um, I think not everyone realizes the extent of the corruption, and perhaps it will become more prominently known. But what's happening now in the United States is just phenomenal. It's very, very bad. It's very serious. Um, Billions upon billions of dollars are being misappropriated. People are being heavily taxed, and particularly the people that generate most of the wealth, the people with some Vaishya inclination. There was historically a uh, a bank robber guy was named Willie Sutton, and he became known not just for robbing banks, but he was once asked, why do you rob banks? And he said that he robbed banks because that's where the money is. Uh, which makes sense, I guess, but he was joking around. Um, but the government is robbing everyone, but they're especially robbing the Vaishyas, because they're the ones that are generating the wealth. Um, at least in the United States at present, there is a significant movement and a growing movement of people who favor the idea of increasing the taxation on the mercantile community, the individuals who are actually making money. These are the people that are also creating the jobs and employing people. They're the people that the economy depends upon. Um, but there is a natural tendency in conditioned souls to become envious of those who have more. And it is particularly a feature, Srila Prabhupada explains, of the Shudras who have no capacity to generate wealth independently. They require um, employment by a Vaishya. They don't have the intelligence to be able to effectively, at least, generate wealth. They will be happy to work for someone else and collect a check at the end of the week. That's typical Shudra. The Vaishyas, on the other hand, with whatever resources are available to them, they will take that and multiply it, and that's just their nature. They'll always find a way to profit in any situation, and to the extent that they'll be able to create employment for others. Um, so they are an important part of the social body. They are the stomach. They're the ones that produce the food and the wealth that makes it possible for all the other varnas to exist. Srila Prabhupada has gone into some detail about his discussion of this tendency to try to usurp the wealth of the Vaishyas by the Shudras, who invariably become the majority sector of society. Um, and he explains that the ideology of the Shudras is communism or socialism. Um, uh, they want to distribute the wealth with some sort of equity amongst everyone. That works well for the Vaishyas excuse me, for the Shudras who cannot generate wealth by themselves. But of course, it happens at the expense of the Vaishyas. Um, anyway, this ideology of heavily taxing the Vaishyas is becoming an increasingly popular movement in the United States and throughout the world. In many places, it's going on. There's increasing interest in socialism and communism. Srila Prabhupada rejected this idea. He felt that of the two opposing ideologies, socialism and or communism, he lumped the two together, socialism and communism, as opposed to capitalism. He felt that all were basically possessed of a demonic mentality, but that the communists were relatively speaking the bigger demons. Um, so the capitalists, uh, the communists are just all demons. The capitalists are maybe 90% demons. Um, anyway, that's we're out of time. I don't want to I don't want to carry us too far over time, but those are some of my thoughts. Um, Thanks again for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for everyone for joining. Venturaj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava.